Have you ever noticed how often you lie to yourself? Not to others, not to strangers, but to the person staring back at you in the mirror. You tell yourself you're fine when you're breaking inside. You say you don't care when you desperately do. You convince yourself that tomorrow you'll change, but tomorrow always slips into another tomorrow. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, you become a stranger to yourself. This is the silent betrayal we all commit, not because we're weak, but because it's easier than facing the truth. It's easier to numb ourselves with distractions, to hide behind the endless scroll, meaningless chatter, the small comforts that keep us safe but quietly kill us. Think about it. How many times have you betrayed your own potential just to keep your comfort intact? Plato once described the human soul as a charioteer trying to control two horses, one noble, pulling us toward reason and virtue, and the other wild, dragging us toward base desires and chaos. Most of us think we're the charioteer, but if we're honest, more often than not, we're just passengers being dragged through life by whichever horse is stronger at the moment. This isn't just philosophy, it's your life. The wild horse is the temptation to give up, to waste hours, to avoid responsibility. The noble horse is the quiet, disciplined voice reminding you of what you're capable of. But here's the question. When was the last time you actually listened to that voice? The German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer once wrote about the danger of cheap grace. He was talking about faith, but the idea applies to life itself. Cheap grace is when you keep forgiving yourself without ever changing. It's the comfort of saying, I'll do better next time, without ever making next time different. Isn't that what most of us do? We excuse ourselves for the small betrayals, sleeping in instead of working on our dream, avoiding the difficult conversation, staying quiet when we should have spoken. And slowly, these small betrayals pile up until one day we wake up and realize we've built a life we never actually chose.
Nietzsche had a brutal way of putting it. He said, most people live like cattle, grazing in the fields of comfort, terrified of becoming individuals. We prefer the herd because the herd feels safe, but safety is a prison, and the bars are forged by our own compromises. Ask yourself, are you free, or are you just comfortable? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Comfort and freedom rarely live in the same house. Comfort makes us dull, predictable, easy to control. That's why modern life offers us so much of it. Endless entertainment, convenience at every turn, a flood of noise to drown out the silence. But freedom requires suffering. It requires risk, responsibility, and the courage to walk alone. Most people will choose comfort. Will you? Let me tell you a story. There was once a soldier who returned from war. He had seen death, chaos, and the fragility of life in its rawest form. But when he came home, everyone expected him to settle into comfort, to enjoy the peace he had earned. But he couldn't. He would wake up at dawn and run for miles. He took cold showers, refused luxury, and poured his energy into building something meaningful. When asked why he lived this way, he answered, because I know what's at stake. The moment I start betraying myself with small comforts, I become my own enemy. That soldier understood something most of us ignore. The enemy isn't out there. It isn't society, or the government, or the economy, or your parents, or your boss. The enemy lives inside you. It's the whisper that says, take it easy. You deserve a break. Don't push too hard. Tomorrow will be fine. That voice wants you docile. That voice wants you weak. That voice wants you average. And the tragedy is that most people obey it.
Think about Machiavelli. He was often accused of being ruthless, manipulative, even evil. But underneath his cold observations about power was a simple, uncomfortable truth. Life doesn't reward the passive. If you don't take control, someone else will. If you don't rule your inner kingdom, you'll be ruled by impulses, by fear, by others who are willing to lead. The betrayal of the self happens quietly. You don't notice it in a single moment. You notice it after years of surrender. One day you look back and realize your life was not a story you wrote. It was a script you followed. And the script was written by the very forces you thought you were controlling. Here's the irony. We all want meaning. We want purpose, depth, significance. But meaning isn't found where it's easy. It's found in the struggle, in the sacrifice, in the moments when you could betray yourself, but choose not to. Imagine this. Two roads. One is smooth, comfortable, lined with pleasures. The other is rough, steep, uncertain. Most will take the first, but at the end of the smooth road, there's nothing, just regret. At the end of the rough one, there's growth, freedom, and the faint, burning satisfaction of knowing you didn't give in. Which road are you on right now? You see, the world doesn't need more people who fit in. It doesn't need more obedience, more passive comfort, more silent betrayals. It needs people who are willing to wrestle with themselves, who are willing to question their own laziness, their own excuses, their own inner cowardice. Because here's the final twist. The more you betray yourself, the more you betray everyone around you. When you give in to weakness, you don't just rob yourself. You rob your family, your friends, your community of the person you could have been. Every time you shrink back, you deny the world your strength. And the world is already starving for strong, authentic souls. So maybe the question isn't, why do we betray ourselves? The question is, when will you finally stop?
The ancient Stoics used to practice a thought experiment. Imagine your death is near. Not years from now, not decades, but tonight. If this was your final day, what would you regret most? Would it be the mistakes you made? Or would it be the things you never dared to try, the potential you never lived, the life you kept postponing until it was too late? I think you already know the answer. So here's my challenge to you. Stop being your own enemy. Stop making peace with the little betrayals. Stop forgiving yourself so cheaply. Be ruthless with your own weakness. Be merciless with your own lies. Be unyielding with your own comfort. Because freedom, meaning, and truth don't come to those who wait. They come to those who dare to suffer for them. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest rebellion you can commit in this world isn't against society or tradition or authority, but against the part of you that would rather live small. Don't betray yourself. Not today, not ever again. Because one day you'll wake up and there won't be any more tomorrows left to fix it. And when that day comes, the only question that will matter is this. Did you live as your own ally or as your own enemy?